Welcome to Passcast. I'm Brad Whitaker. What would it take for the New England Patriots to trade back from third overall and be willing to give up a guy like Drake May or Jane Daniels to perhaps a team like the Minnesota Vikings? It would take a lot. And I don't think, as a lot of people have floated out, the Vikings have 2 first-round draft picks this year, 11th overall and 23rd overall. I don't think you throw those 2 picks in and maybe a future first, that's going to be enough. The Patriots, as Gerard Mayo has floated out, as Robert Kraft has floated out, as I'm sure de facto GM Elliott Wolf is considering, we need a heavy bag thrown their way in order to make a deal like that happen, to give up on bringing in one of those top-tier quarterbacks as the future franchise QB in New England. But it is very possible, and a lot of things would need to fall into place for it to work out. First of all, the Patriots would have to not be as high on Drake May or Jane Daniels, whomever they expect to fall to them at number 3, as some of these other teams are. And maybe they're not. I mean, we saw Dan Quinn, Adam Peters with the Commanders really chatting it up with Drake May, acting like, hey, I've seen enough after his pro day performance where he really showed off that strong arm of his and his ability to throw off balance and make big plays, which he certainly could do in the NFL, certainly has a lot of raw upside there. But maybe the Patriots say, hey, we're not as high on those guys. Look, you're probably not going to be able to get J.J. McCarthy if you have the 11th and 23rd overall pick. He's probably going to go somewhere in the top 10. But maybe they like Bo Nix. Bo Nix would be considered a top-tier guy in other drafts. Maybe they're willing to settle for Michael Penix, who had an incredible pro day and showed off great speed, a great vertical that nobody expected with 2 reconstructed knees. Or maybe they're willing to get one of the late 3rd or 4th round quarterbacks like Spencer Rattler, the kid from FSU, who could be in a much better situation behind Jacoby Brissett and maybe Bailey Zappi, sit for a little while, and see how they perform with a lot more weapons. And in order for that to happen with a team like the Minnesota Vikings, they would have to be high on Drake May. And there's a lot of reports out there saying the Vikings really do like Drake May. And they would expect him to fall to number 3 overall, and they would be willing to throw 11 and 23 and some future first-round picks to New England. But here's the thing. Patriots have so many needs, right? They don't just need a quarterback. They need a starting left tackle. They need a true number 1 wide receiver, which they haven't had in about a decade since Randy Moss. You can take care of all 3 of those positions. Suddenly you're off and running, and you turn this into a very fast rebuild. Maybe you don't even have to rebuild at all. Maybe suddenly you're one of the better teams in the AFC East right off the bat because you are willing to trade back from number 3 overall and get more draft picks and maybe a great player like Justin Jefferson. Now, this has been floated out many times, and you see the Minnesota Vikings fans in the comments that would say, no, if we're going to trade Justin Jefferson, you're going to be giving us future first. We're not going to be giving you future first. That doesn't make sense. He's the best wide receiver in the NFL. This has nothing to do with Justin Jefferson being the best wide receiver in the NFL, which he certainly is. I think he is, at least. Justin Jefferson is not that valuable because he is on a 1-year contract at the moment. And whomever is trading for him potentially is only getting him for a single year. And the Vikings, look, they can afford to probably pay him and give him a massive contract where he's making $30-40 million a year, the top paid wide receiver for 4 to 5 seasons down the road. That's what he's going to go for. They can probably afford it with Kirk Cousins coming off the books. You didn't have to pay for him, so they're going to have a lot more cap space to move with. But it's more important to have a franchise quarterback than it is a top-tier wide receiver. And it's not like the Vikings don't have other weapons, right? They got Jordan Addison. They have a decent offensive line. They have other receivers. They have good tight ends. If they lost Justin Jefferson, yeah, that would be a significant loss for them. But it's better to lose him and have a future franchise quarterback than Sam Darnold or no quarterback at all, which is the situation that they're looking at right now, because maybe Bo Nix is the guy. Maybe they like Michael Penix Jr., but it seems like they really do like Drake May and these top-tier quarterbacks. They wouldn't have acquired the 23rd overall pick if they didn't want to move up, seemingly. So in order for the Patriots to be willing to make a move where they're not drafting one of these top quarterbacks at 3rd overall and they're willing to take 11 and 23 and maybe a future 1st or 2nd or whatever, they're going to need more than that. And maybe there are other teams that would be willing to give them more than that. And the longer that they wait to make a trade like that, the more desperate teams are going to get, potentially the Minnesota Vikings who really want to move up. And maybe they would be willing to throw Justin Jefferson in there and say, look, we want to keep him, but he's going to be expensive. We'd only have him for a year and no quarterback, a guy who might have to sit on the bench for a year behind Sam Darnold. I think we're going to have to give up Jefferson to do it. Now, the Patriots would not be able to do this, right? They would not be willing to do this unless they had a guarantee that Jefferson would sign an extension. And the Patriots, that's a lot of money to spend on a wide receiver. They weren't willing to throw $23 million a year at Calvin Ridley, which is not worth it in my opinion. But $30+ million for Justin Jefferson, I think it is worth it. And they have more cap space than anyone else to be able to sign him to that type of an extension. So if the Patriots were willing to make this deal, they would need a guarantee that Jefferson would sign long term if they indeed did make a trade like that. Now, this would give the Patriots the true number one wide receiver that they've been missing for decades, and they could still take one of the better tackles in the draft at 11th overall and shore up the left side of the O-line early and set up a far better situation for one of the later rookie quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett, or maybe even Bailey Zappi, who I'm not writing off yet. Go listen to my last podcast. Zappi is working hard. This is a guy that was in the same situation as Mac Jones the last couple of seasons. He hasn't been with a functional coaching staff in a while. If that coaching staff works out, Zappi may actually have a chance to win that starting job. Go watch the last podcast. I know it's a long shot. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you give him Jefferson, you give him a left tackle and some more weapons, maybe it would work out. But let's say Jefferson is impossible, or he's unwilling to sign an extension with the Patriots if they were willing to make that type of trade. There are other possibilities. And the Patriots could still trade back and take one of these so-called top-tier quarterbacks that isn't Drake May or Jane Daniels, and a guy who's been rising up the boards, guy who I'm higher on than anybody else, it seems like, because, yeah, he doesn't have the strongest arm. He doesn't have the best speed. He doesn't have the instincts of a Caleb Williams, but he has all those things to an extent, and he's a winner, and he's proven that he can be in clutch situations, and that is J.J. McCarthy. Now, reports are coming out that de facto GM Elliott Wolf really likes McCarthy. I'm not sure how accurate these reports are. Maybe this is something the Patriots are floating out there with some other intentions in mind, as teams often do. It's lying season, it's draft season, but J.J. McCarthy has the footwork, the instincts, the arm, the mobility, the elusiveness, the record of winning, even though he was behind a great offensive line, a good running game, didn't throw the ball much. On third and long, there's no better cute quarterback in this draft than J.J. McCarthy. And it's possible the Patriots are eyeing him more than they're eyeing Drake May or Jane Daniels. And if they expect McCarthy to go somewhere within the top 10, maybe even top 5, look, you're not getting him at 11 by trading back. You would need to do multiple trades or a 3-team deal that is able to allow them to trade back and move up again. Now, that sounds a little wild, but it's been done before. Basically, a team like the Patriots could trade back to 11 and 23 and then trade 11 and maybe a later draft round pick, a future draft round, first round pick or something like that, and then move back into the top 5 and then select J.J. McCarthy that way. That is another possibility. And then you're basically acquiring an additional first rounder, right? So you're trading number 3. You're getting 11 and 23, but you're also trading 11 to somebody else, moving back into the top 5 or top 10, expecting you can take J.J. McCarthy. So you wouldn't need a team like the Chargers or the Cardinals, one of these teams, to be willing to trade back to 11 and get some future capital from the Patriots that way. But then the Patriots get to keep the 23rd overall pick, so they're really only moving back a spot or two, and they get an additional first rounder. That would be the ideal scenario if indeed they like J.J. McCarthy. So we saw something like this with the Boston Celtics, right? So there was Markelle Fultz and Lonzo Ball, and the Celtics really like Jason Tatum. They had the first pick. They ended up trading back and acquiring future draft capital from the Sixers. They took Fultz. Lonzo Ball went number 2, and they got the guy they wanted, Jason Tatum, at number 3, and some future draft picks that they could use later to build around him. It turned out to be the right decision because Jason Tatum was the best basketball player in that draft. That would be, if Elliott Wolf could pull something off like that, and J.J. McCarthy worked out and he turns out to be the best quarterback in this draft, then he's certainly going to get the general manager job, right? Because then you get your future franchise quarterback. You don't have to wait to 34th overall to address tackle or wide receiver. You could address it at 23rd overall, and then you have another second-round pick just a few picks later to address the need that you need to fill there, whether that is tackle or receiver. And then you're off and running. Essentially, you have 3 first-round draft picks. Yeah, 34th overall is early in the second round, but it's the second pick in the second round. So you're getting first-round guys, and there's going to be tackles that would normally go in the first round that are available in the second round in this draft just because it is such a deep tackle draft. And you could say the same thing about the wide receiver position. If Elliott Wolf could somehow pull that off, I'm not saying you're getting Justin Jefferson in this scenario, but you may be able to get McCarthy if you like him, and I like him. A lot of people don't. But you get McCarthy, and then you get one of the top tackles at wide receiver later in the first round, and then you get the other position early in the second round, and then you still got other draft picks. Maybe you had to trade a third rounder to move back into the top 10. But, I mean, we could see it happen, right? If the Arizona Cardinals were willing to trade that pick, Patriots only move back one spot, and they get another first rounder because they've done some, 3-team deal workaround. Vikings are able to move up. Arizona is able to get a ton of future picks doing it, or the Chargers do it. Then you're really off and running. You're able to address tackle, quarterback, and wide receiver within the first 34 picks. And then you're not really rebuilding as much anymore. Yeah, these guys are going to be young. They're going to have to prove it, but they're all on rookie deals. You still have a lot of cap space. You have room to maneuver. Maybe Patriots are able to trade for a T. Higgins or something with a third-round pick who's also on just 1 year left on his contract. I know that sounds crazy, but again, the reason T. Higgins is not as valuable as T. Higgins should be, the reason Justin Jefferson is not as valuable as Justin Jefferson should be, is because they are only on 1 year of their contract left. Patriots could make a trade, sign those guys to an extension, and then you're off and running. There's a lot that they could do here, and look, it's all speculation at this point. We don't know if Elliott Wolf does like J.J. McCarthy. Maybe the Patriots want to hold firm at number 3. Maybe they really like Drake May. I don't know. But you have some opportunities here, especially if you're willing to get a third team in the mix and get back into the top 10, top 5 by acquiring 11 and 23 and then trading 11 and some other future picks, whether it's in this draft or future drafts, and then still get that top quarterback. There's a lot that they could do. It could be very interesting, but let me know in the comments below. And I know there's going to be Vikings fans here. No, Justin Jefferson is worth 3 future first-round picks. No, he's not. He has 1 year in his contract. That makes him not worth it. He may have to be the throw-in that lets the Vikings get the number 3 overall pick just because you only have him for a year. But let me know in the comments. Do you think Justin Jefferson's realistic? Do you think that could happen? Or do you like this other scenario I floated out where the Patriots find a third team, trade back, and then trade up again and still get that future quarterback? Or maybe they get one of the better tackles and address quarterback later. There's a lot that they could do. Let me know what you think the Pats should do in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. We'll be back the rest of the week with more Patriots coverage, more breaking news as it rolls in, and we'll certainly be here to cover the draft on draft day, day 1, day 2, day 3, every pick, maybe not the 6th and 7th round, but at least the first few picks. Going to get interesting, and Elliott Wolf has a chance to really make a big splash and earn that formal GM title. Going to be fun to see.